for you.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Okay, I'm going to repeat some questions which I may have already asked you, or things that you may have already said, because I want to record them on the tape. Yeah. So forgive me for that.
Yep.
So I'm with General Gunther Rall on the 20th of November in his lovely home in Germany. So, thank you for seeing me, General.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I shall try to avoid going over things that appear in the book, because I will read those later and expand on that. But for me, it's very interesting to talk to you. So, once again, thank you for seeing me, especially at such short notice. So, you are the world's highest scoring fighter ace still alive.
That's true. You know, the most successful one was Bubi Hartmann, passed away a couple of years ago. He was in my group. And the next, Gerd Barkholm. They both passed away, and I'm now number 3. But it doesn't mean anything, you know. I'm not too proud of that.
And most of the kills were against the Russian Air Force?
Yes. And let me mention that. You know, everybody takes tremendous number of kills. Why? I was 5.5 years in operation, or in the hospital. I was shut down 8 times. I was seriously injured 3 times. And but then I went back to my combat unit. You know, if you, like the Americans for instance, they come over, they fly 50 missions. They cannot shoot down 200 aircraft in 50 missions. So this is relative.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, the German fighters were really used for a long time, you know, if they were still alive.
I presume some of them gained experience in Spain.
Yes, the old ones.
Yeah.
They were in the Spanish War, Möllers, Trautloft, the old category, and we were too young for that.
Yeah.
I just finished my pilot's training when war started. I finished my fighter pilot's training. Went to the unit, my wing, at the Western Front against France when the war started. And then I was 5.5 years in operation or in hospital.
Yeah. You broke
and one with one exception. And this is still I am proud to have experienced that. When my thumb was shut down by P-47, it took time because I get an infection on that.
Yeah.
And I went back to Trautloff, said I want to go back to my combat wing. I said, are you crazy? That the bone is still out. I became commander of the fighter leader school, and in that position I had the chance to fly all Allied aircraft.
Oh, really?
P-51, P-38, P-47, you know, captured one.
Yeah.
Spitfire and the 262. So this was very, very interesting for me and very, you know, I got a good knowledge in checking all these planes.
You said the 262, the Messerschmitt 262, the jet.
The jet, first jet.
Okay. All right. And so, of those aeroplanes, which was the one that you most enjoyed?
Yes. I will tell you, I flew in combat 5.5 years, the 109, all the different types, you know, from the E model, F model, G model, and so forth. Then I could compare when I flew the P-51, 47. And the German also, the Focke-Wulf 190, the long-nosed, they were much better than the 109, you know, and just show you a difference between airplanes. The 109 has a very touchy undercarriage.
Yeah, very close together.
Very close together. Then they had slots. Then they had a very tiny cockpit. Poor visibility to the back. But this was a maneuverable aircraft, no doubt. Now compared, P-51, and then ecliptic starting system. I mentioned that because to get engine running at a temperature of -30 degrees in Russia, it was almost impossible. We made open fire underneath to get it warmed, the oil.
Yeah.
The P-51, very stable undercarriage. And when I jumped in, first thing I noticed, electrical starting system. Brrrt, here we go. You know, beautiful cockpit, beautiful visibility to the back, and maneuverability. And now the main thing, endurance. 7.5 hours, 109, 1.5 hour.
Yeah, that's with the drop tanks.
I mean, so you could see and recognize the differences between the types.
And your opinion of the Spitfire?
Spitfire was a very good airplane, but also had an endurance of 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
All continental, European continental aircraft had only 1.5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, but the Spitfire was a good plane, and I preferred, they didn't have slots, you know. A slot increases the lift at low speed if you take off and landing.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
Yeah.
Can do it without. But in the air, in a rough turn, a dogfight, just by gravity, the outer slot comes out, you get in a snap.
Yeah.
You have to watch that, you know. So the wings of what we call libelle wing from the Spitfire was a very stable, fine wing. Same in the Mustang, you know, P-51, exactly the same.
And with the Rolls-Royce engine, the supercharger kicked in when the revs went above a certain level, but in the ME-109, the supercharger was always on. Is this correct?
Yeah, I cannot now go in details, I forgot it, you know.
Yeah, sure.
But actually I did have problems with the engine in the 109. Not at all.
It's a beautiful sounding engine.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And there's a photo I saw of Theo Now. You may have heard of Theo. He flew ME-109s. He lives near Frankfurt.
Who?
Theo Now. N-A-U. He was 18 in 1944, so he was quite junior, but he had 3 kills. But I have a photo of him sitting in the cockpit of an ME-109, and his head is almost touching the glass, the perspex.
You know, take our leaders, Trautler, for instance. He was 185 height.
6 foot.
Sit in his cockpit. I don't know how you have managed that, you know.
Yeah.
I'm 174, and I was comfortable, but anyway, when they recognized me in the air, when I had, I broke my back 3 times, you know, I was paralyzed and what the hell. And then I went back to my wing, and I had to have cushions because I could here and here. So I was sitting forward. I show you that in the yeah, I show you.
Sure.
That's in your, where's your book? I know, I have another one.
I'll get mine, shall I?
No, I'll get mine here.
Okay. Was the glass in the, excuse me, is this perspex or glass? Plastic or glass?
This is plastic, I think. Yeah. I think. Just to show you, it's not that important. This was after. Anyway, you will find it. It's marked in that book. That my wing and my squatter could recognize me because I'm sitting very much forward. You know, you find it here somewhere. Don't waste the time. Ah, that's mine. That's right. German.
And when you broke, was it when you broke your back that you met your wife?
Yes, it was in a late afternoon flight between Taganrog and Rostov, the Russian flight. And I got contact with Russians and shot down one, and he was blind. It was dawn already. And in this very moment, the second came and shot me and shot my engine off. There was nothing, and then I get in a Balka, crashed, and was gone. 4 hours and hours. German tanks put me out and took me to Taganrog. And took quite a time. I had tremendous pains, but paralyzed here. But there was no X-ray or nothing, you know, out in Russia. It was, and then after 3 weeks, they took me down to Bucharest, Romania.
Yeah.
There's a hospital with X-ray and everything. And immediately I was X-rayed, and then the doctor came and said, "Over and just flying, forget flying." Never. And I said, "Doctor, I will fly." And then I got a cast.
Yeah.
And I wore that cast for 5 months, 6 months. Horrible tension cast.
Yeah.
And with a Red Cross train to Vienna and came to a hospital, and there the station doctor was my wife.
Okay. That's very nice.
Yeah.
And 5 months in a cast. You must have gone crazy.
Yeah, it's awful. You know, you shrink in that cast. You know,
Yeah.
when it's getting cold, you get wet and getting cold and that.
Yeah.
You know, and if you look here, you cut off your bloodstream.
Yeah.
A lot of problems, you know, with that, no doubt. But
it's interesting to me to hear you say what you just said, because today, where I live, there are people everywhere with small problems in their lives, and they, you know, they do not cope.
Yeah.
And I feel like saying, well, you should speak to General Rall, or you should speak to Douglas Bader or somebody, you know.
You know, I was scalped here. They shut off my thumb and so forth. I have enough.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, Douglas Bader and Stanford, I met them all.
Did you? After the war?
As a prisoner. And just we can talk about it. You know, to be a prisoner in Russia was horrible. Horrible. I was an American prisoner, but there were thousands and thousands. And then Rudel, the Stuka guy and me, he was in Foucault-Ville in northern France. We got an order to go to England. They picked us up to the British Fighter Leader School in Tangmere. And there was Stanford Tuck, Douglas Bader, all these guys, and we were treated. Never forget that, you know. The first contact, Douglas Bader came, Stanford Tuck came, when we came in prison, which is normal, but the doors were open. Stanford Tuck came, "Gentlemen, first time gentlemen, since months. Gentlemen, we didn't expect it early. Did you have lunch?" I said, "No sir, I didn't have lunch for the last 3 months." And then, "Do you want a cigarette?" "Yes, please." Treated as gentlemen. We fought a war every evening, sitting long at night and exchanging our opinions. I never forget that. This was absolutely top.
Interesting.
Yeah. Not everywhere. Not in Russia, forget it.
Yeah. Do you think if you were captured by the Russians, you would have been shot?
Could be. I mean, Bobby Hartmann, he was by the Russians. He came home, oh boy,
yeah,
after 10 years.
Yeah. Was it 200,000 Germans taken prisoner after Stalingrad?
And how many got lost, killed?
Yeah.
Also killed.
Yeah.
We had a lot of pilots came down with a parachute and Russians were massacred.
Yeah.
Also. But the war is a dirty thing.
I ask people when I do these interviews for their, I say, and what is your last word on war? Speak to my 6-year-old son. Tell him.
War is, as I mentioned, is a failing human being. You know, they didn't. We have to try by diplomatic measures to solve the world problems, but it's not possible everywhere. A war is rectified, and if it in a defending position, not offensive. It's immediate Hitler.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Ah, I forgot that. I'm still on that.
Are you okay with saying that? You're okay with that? Yeah. If there's something you want me to take off, just tell me.
No.
So, it worries me, just that, this won't go on the tape, but it worries me because my son is very interested in aeroplanes.
Yeah.
And I think he wants to become a pilot.
That's great.
So I'm trying to tell him that you can be a pilot, but you don't need to join the Royal Air Force. You know, you can just be a...
I mean, the Royal Air Force is a measure to defend the country.
Okay.
This is not against that.
Yeah.
We have to have weapons all the time, everywhere, for defending our position.
Yeah.
You know, not to aggress.
But
offend. That's wrong.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, you never fly so beautiful airplanes like in an Air Force. Spitfire, you know, in an airline, whoa.
Yeah.
But the fun is, like, I always say it's a great plane for me, so when I flew a Starfighter, this was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah? You never experience that in a airline.
The acceleration.
No, sure.
And I imagine, I think also for you, the camaraderie.
Sure. This is throughout the forces. You know, because there's special task.
Yeah.
You know, then there's an American same like in England and France or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Czechoslovakia, Czechia. The Czech have a very great interest in German pilots. They invited me several times.
Yesterday, as you know, I interviewed a Czech pilot.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to me that the first plane you shot down was a French Curtiss flown by a Czech pilot.
P-66, a Czech pilot.
Yeah, and this guy was there as well.
Unfortunately, he bailed out, which I didn't know. He was in fire and then they shot me and he bailed out. And when we walked into France, he left for England and went to the Royal Air Force.
Yeah. And
flew in the Royal Air Force and they got killed. He had bailed out again and came with his parachute in a Thames River or where there is water.
Drowned. Dreadful.
Yeah, bad.
I learned yesterday that 1,500 Czech pilots joined the Royal Air Force after France.
Yeah.
Good for the RAF, bad for the Luftwaffe, I think.
Sure.
Because many of those guys had been flying since 1936 or 1938. I was surprised to learn that there were so many. And you said before that the Luftwaffe trained 20,000 pilots.
Yeah, trained and put in action. Not at the time, you know.
Yeah.
Over the 5 years.
Yeah.
And 2,000 returned.
And how does that compare to, say, the submarine operations?
Submarine is the losses are higher, but I can give you figures. I don't know that. Yeah. They lost. They were very successful at the beginning, and then the British or American invented a new system.
Yeah.
And it's killed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after the war, you had a very, I'll start again. After the war, you had a very difficult time.
Yes, everybody had a difficult time, you know, but there was a tremendous spirit, you know, to go back to normal life, to work and to make, this was a tremendous spirit, no doubt. It was, oh, no, let's go.
Yeah.
And then I was lucky, I was joined companies and Siemens and den Bodenseewerk. We made for aviation, for still famous company down at the Lake Constance. And I was there for 6 years. And then Salem came, the Markgraf, and said, you have to come to the school to be the, more or less the secretary and the adjutant of Prince George William of Hanover. He was the leader of the school.
Okay.
And I said, okay, Royal Highness, Your Highness, when the call comes, I joined the Air Force again. There I stayed 3 years in Salem, and then I joined the new German Air Force again, and then a new life started, you know. I always say, the old Air Force was a very national one. We flew inside our boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah? And the new one, it was global, NATO.
Yeah.
We now went to the United States, and that was tremendous experience for us, you know. We trained on T-33 and the F-84 and so forth. And then I got the 104, and I spent most time over there.
Yeah.
In California,
Nevada,
Palmdale, Edwards Air Force Base, and all these places. It was fantastic. And then I chased around the world.
And did the Americans, in the 1950s and the 1960s, were they still drawing on your experience from World War II as a fighter pilot? Or had the technology so changed that it was different?
It's changed, and they had a different, I mean, I'm seldom one. I flew the 262 with the experience on a jet. Most pilots didn't have that, you know. And then we had only jets. T-33, we started with a T-6, you know, Bob. And then T-33, and then F-84.
Yeah.
And then flew everything, 86s, and then, I mean, my favorite was the stuff out of it.
Did you meet Chuck Yeager?
Sure, many times.
Yeah.
Chuck is also in here.
Is he? Okay. So you've probably, I think maybe you have met all of the famous pilots.
Sure. With Chuck Yeager, when I was chief of staff of 4ATAF in Ramstein, Chuck Yeager was Vice Commander 17 Air Force. He just left the next house. We were very often together, even in the States.
Yeah.
When I came to the States, and I had some funny experience with Chuck.
I'm sure.
Yeah. But all these, Bud Anderson, these are good friends. Bud Anderson wrote the foreword in the English version of the book. This was the leader of Chuck Yeager in the war.
Yeah.
You know, and all these.
Chuck Yeager is famous for the speed, breaking the speed limit, but he was also a very successful fighter pilot in World War II.
He had 15 kills. He wrote a book, you know, Yeager.
Yeah.
And he gave me this book, and I read it years ago. And here he says, in the North German plane, he flew the Mustang, P-51. He got ground attacks on everything was moved, on women, children, everything. And I said, Chuck, are you crazy? You put that in a book? It's against every international law. I said, this was an order. I say that because he blamed always us.
Yeah. The man I referred to before, Theo now, the 18-year-old from 1944, he said that when he was shot down by a P-47, he was very scared that he was going to be shot in his parachute. Because he said that his colleagues, his comrades were that they believed that the Americans shot them in their parachutes.
Sure. I will tell you, Zwannemann, he was in my group, squadron commander. Then he came on the North German front. And he was very successful. And then he was shot down and came down in the parachute with a bullet through his head. He cannot pull the parachute with a bullet through his head. He was dead. Mm. But, you know, an air battle and air combat is a very emotional thing also. Just as to excuse this maybe. And to fly bullets around also unaimed, you know.
Yeah.
It could be. But this is true. And I know it also from Japan. Mm. Yeah. They shot him. In the German pilot's pass, forbidden to shoot a parachute. Was in the pass. Yeah, okay. War's a dirty thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a movie that was produced in the 1960s called The Battle of Britain. And in the, I have the DVD of the movie, and there's a DVD that comes with the movie about the making of the movie. And it has an interview with General Mulders?
Yeah. No, but he wasn't Charlotte, Colonel. He got killed when he was a colonel. Mulders.
Okay. It's the wrong man. Galland. It was him. He was very angry that people should think that German pilots were shooting people in their parachutes. And he said, this did not happen.
Yeah.
We did not do this. So,
you might be right.
Yeah.
It was forbidden. By law forbidden.
So after the war you spent some time flying still. When was the last time you flew a fast jet?
You know, this was in the, let's put it that way, the combat jet.
Yeah.
Starfighters, I flew till 1960, 66, 67, 68. And then when I became commander of the forces and of the Air Force, I flew the Lucky Jetstar. I went all my trips with the Lucky Jetstar to the United States, to India, to China, to wherever it was, to Singapore. This was great fun.
You must have a very large number of hours in your logbook.
Yeah. I flew 47, it's listed here, 47 different aircraft.
Okay.
This also, just to show you, this is in the back. That's all the names. You see, I'm getting old, you know, glasses. I show you now the different stations in Russia. This is my victories. This is my career. These are all the stations where I was placed.
Look at that.
Yeah. Through the war.
Goodness me, look at that.
Yeah. You know the name of, I forgot the name. It's parts in the archive.
Yeah.
It was very there. But this is still the victories. These are slugs and so on. This is now, these are all types of aircraft I flew in 47.
May I have a quick look?
Yeah.
All the different types of 109s.
Yeah.
You flew 4 different versions of the 190.
Yeah.
Mustang, a Lightning, Thunderbolt, Spitfire, the 262.
Yep.
Phantom. You flew the Phantom in St. Louis.
Yep.
And you flew a Harrier.
What's that?
You flew a Harrier as well.
The Harrier in England?
Yeah.
I think there's a big train. When I was over there, they took me out to Coningsby.
In Lincolnshire.
Yeah, Lincolnshire.
Yeah. So that it must have been interesting for you to take off
Yeah.
vertically.
Yeah.
So interesting. And when you stopped flying, you became more involved in the administration in the Air Force.
Yes. Of my career as Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Air Force, 4 years, and then I went out. The last mission was in Brussels. I was a German military representative at the Military Committee of NATO for 2 years until that time. And there was snow flying those days.
Yeah. And then you retired from the Air Force. It must have been in the the early mid 70s.
Pretty soon the industry came, you know, and I was with the industry, and then I chased around the world. I was in China, I was in Japan. I was in Japan also as a 104 pilot, twice 4 weeks, because the Japanese also got the 104.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was in Hawaii, and I was with the Philippines, Manila, and twice in Singapore. They wanted to get me for air defense program. It was twice 4 weeks down, beautiful.
Yeah.
And on all countries. I was in all continents besides Australia. I never was in Australia or in New Zealand.
Okay.
But in all other places I was.
Just talking for one moment about Japan.
Japan.
Did you meet any World War II pilots from Japan? Do you know any?
The Chief of Staff of Japanese Air Force, I will tell you, General Gunther. He was inventor of Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
And he was, at the time, I was colonel, and I was showing the 104 to different countries. I was invited to Japan. And before that, General Gunther made his first visit to Europe after the war. His first station was England. And he landed in England near London with his plane. Opened the door, there was hundreds of journalists down there. They called, "General, what about Pearl Harbor?" And he said, "Well, I think we should have continued." Boom, boom, boom. Headlines, yeah? Headlines. Back to Japan. The parliament was discussing, should we call him back or what the hell? I said, no, we spent the money already, leave him go, let him go. But this was a matter of language barrier. He didn't understand. From there on, he was not allowed. I have to give him a briefing about the 104 in Bonn. And I was prepared in English. There were exactly 45 minutes. The door went open. Chief of Staff came in, General Gunther said, in German. So, you crazy, there's a completely different time factor, you know? He was not allowed to be addressed in English or to speak English from there on. This was General Gunther. And then later on, I came to Japan. I stayed 4 weeks in Japan. I was with him. I was a fine man, no doubt. And he made a plan for Pearl Harbor. But he couldn't attend, he was on a carrier. And he got an appendicitis. Exactly, but that's where he was in the hospital, the carrier. Yeah, it was Gunther.
I just, as an aside, I am having difficulty finding a Japanese pilot to photograph. And I wrote to the Japanese embassy. Yeah. But I have not heard back from anybody.
Oh, no.
So any assistance from anywhere would be most welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I let that go. So you led a very active life even after you finished with the Air Force. When did you start to slow down and do things not quite so
You know, I was
intensively.
very much engaged in the industry, in starting all this, in civil life I was very busy for quite a time, but now I slow it down.
Yeah.
Auch the trips, you know, I had at least 3 times a year in the United States, you know, in England, in France, in Czechoslovakia, in Russia. Were invited 3 times to Russia, and so forth. But now I think it should be slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, it's
a good place, you know.
It's a very beautiful place.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's snow everywhere today, but it's cold outside, but it's beautiful.
It's getting warmer now. It's coming up to 8 degrees.
Okay.
Tomorrow, the day after tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the most beautiful parts of Europe, I think. It's my first visit here.
Yeah, we have the great one. It's Salzburg is close here, mountains are here. I was skiing till 4 years ago, then I stopped that, you know.
You stopped skiing 4 years ago?
It's impossible.
85 years old.
Yeah, but
you stopped skiing at the age of 85.
It was fantastic. You have fantastic areas here.
Yeah.
Skiing, not far away.
Yeah.
40 minutes you're on top.
And for your hobbies, what do you do to keep yourself interested?
Huh?
What do you do in your spare time? Do you know the English word hobby? Hobbies?
Oh, I do many things. For instance, whiskey. You know? By the way, do you want to get a drink?
Sure.
Huh?
Oh, that would be very nice.
One.
One, because I have to drive.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
You're very, very cute now.
Yeah. It's
I have to go to...
If you'll excuse me.
To the meeting. So.